Welcome back to 50 for 50. And this podcast will probably be a little different than some of our other ones because so far, the albums that we've discussed, we've very much enjoyed, and they were kind of landmark albums for the artist. This one is also a landmark album for the artist, but I don't think we quite liked listening back to this as much as we did. Uh, we could rename this album. Please Hammer, don't hurt my ears. Please Hammer, don't hurt my pride. Please Hammer, don't hurt my love of rap music. This was a tough re-listen, man.
Man, I'm curious to know whose experience was more difficult, yours or mine.
Well, I'm sure that I have better memories of Hammer as an artist just because of where I live. You know, he is
Sure. Yeah,
Bay Area owned and a very positive person in the Bay Area as well. Like everyone's gone through their own stuff, right? Like he also had his fallout from bankruptcy and all of those things. And in doing my research, he's kind of bitter for how he was remembered in the industry.
I mean, that's a hard one, right? And I think we'll get more into it as we talk more about the album. But you know, what I will not take away from MC Hammer is the fact that he went back to his home and he employed a lot of people from the area. Constantly pushed a positive message. Was just you hear conflicting reports about whether he was a good dude or not, because there are also stories of like him getting dissed and him and his crew like rolling up and being a little Suge Knight-ish. So I guess you're taking the good with the bad there. But I mean, he always presented a positive image to the public. There's just for me the matter of having actual rapping talent.
Yeah.
which ain't really there. And I mean, also like dude brought showmanship or really like elevated the showmanship for hip hop, and really brought like the whole James Brown review type stage production and dancing skills to hip hop.
Yeah, his skill set was very much more as an entertainer on the dance floor. Though I don't even really remember hearing anything about his live shows, like from a crowd perspective. Like, did he do any like crazy, insane tours? Like, I know he was touring, but
Yeah, I mean, when Please Hammer Don't Hurt Him blew up, he went on tour, and I believe Vanilla Ice was actually his opening act, and that's how Vanilla Ice blew up. But then the Too Legit tour was like Hammer, Jodeci, Boyz II Men, and TLC. So like the biggest black music tour probably of its era. And Hammer had a massive stage production, a bunch of people like dancing on stage, a band, a DJ, the whole nine yards, backup singers, like his whole crew. So I think from a showmanship perspective, Hammer definitely was a step above.
yeah. So this, like I said, this isn't going to be a glowing album review from us.
No.
But the reason why we wanted to do this show or do this specific episode for this show is because 1990, you could not escape MC Hammer, really, just not only being on the radio. And I'm actually interested to hear like how much he was actually played for you versus for me, but also in the public. Like he was the biggest. I looked back at the Grammys. Like there are some really big artists. Mariah Carey one is kind of out at the same time,
Right.
but he kind of dominates, the music in this way. And I know some of it has to do with he's kind of like introducing hip hop to some people, but it's not the hip hop as it would evolve. It is a very different version, and he's called out for it in many places. But the using of very familiar music to create new songs, that is also something that is a big deal at this point, and people don't really know how to take it. Like they like it because they like the songs that he's using, but they're not sure, is this okay? Is this creative? Like what is it? And so there's a discussion there as well.
Yeah, man. I think when Hammer broke through, Hammer brought hip hop to a whole new audience. It was very middle America friendly. And some would say he was shucking and jiving a little bit, always smiling and dancing. And I think that there was an element of hip hop at that time that was very conscious, very concerned with bringing the image of Black folks as like intelligent, kind of counterculture um, people. There was an element of purism to hip hop, and Hammer just kind of like took all of that and like, you know, so and it's interesting because if you look back at the way that he was perceived around that time. I mean, there are some rappers, Public Chuck D has always been like an MC Hammer, almost an MC Hammer apologist. MC Hammer fan, Big Daddy Kane. Like, so there are credible rappers who were like, yo, this dude is the real deal.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, like nobody got dissed on records more than MC Hammer did. Like LL went after him, Run DMC went after him, Tribe Called Quest went after him, NWA went after him. Like he just, because he represented something that was antithetical to what like underground hip hop fans wanted.
He commercialized a lot of it. He's made money off of the art form through what was he with, Coke or Pepsi? He was with one of them.
I think he had a Coke deal. Oh, that sounds bad. I think he had a deal with Coca-Cola. One thing he caught a lot of flack for is he did KFC commercials. And, I think for some people, seeing a Black entertainer endorsing Kentucky Fried Chicken was kind of offensive in some ways. He had tons of sponsorships, tons of deals. And again, this is really like 4 or 5 years before it became super popular for rappers to endorse like mainstream products. Again, he was a trendsetter, but he caught a lot of crap for it too.
Do you think a young Sean Combs was like, I could do that?
I mean, not even a young Sean Combs, because I don't know that Puffy and Hammer are all that far apart in like lineage.
Right.
But, I don't think that there is a Puff Daddy the way Puff Daddy blew up without MC Hammer. From not only like a corporation type perspective, but also like think of all those Bad Boy songs. They basically follow that same MC Hammer template. Like take the instrumental of a hugely popular record and rap sort of over it. Same thing Trackmasters ended up doing with Will Smith. Same thing LL did to kind of spark his comeback with Mr. Smith. Like all of those folks kind of took from the Hammer playbook.
Yeah. Okay, so let's dig into the year 1990. So we are both in high school at this point.
Yeah, Please Hammer Don't Hurt Him came out at the end of my freshman year.
Okay. I am so what would I have been? Like, what's interesting is this to me feels a little bit more like junior high school, like the whole vibe and the time frame of what I realize. I think it's probably end of 8th grade, entering freshman years when I started to really know who this dude was.
Sure.
And to kind of tell you, like, the two things in my mind that are like the biggest things of this time frame, MC Hammer and Air Jordans. Like those are like the biggest things. I remember there's because he's from the Bay Area, obviously Bay Area radio played him a ton.
Sure.
And there was this thing where you weren't cool unless you could time perfectly the stop Hammer time part of the song. Like that was part of the thing. But we're like hooping in our Air Jordans, listening to MC Hammer as, young teenagers. That's kind of the thing that I remember the most.
That's really funny because obviously I'm on the other side of the country. New York is a much different ball game. And I think if you were on the block in Brooklyn and you were playing MC Hammer, you were going to get at minimum laughed at. At worst, you were going to get like punched in the face. Also, if you were wearing Air Jordans and you weren't protected, you were going to get those Air Jordans like stolen right off of your feet. Like you were going to walk home in your socks.
That doesn't sound like a good day.
No, not at all.
Okay, so the year in music, 1990. This is actually a little bit of a long list, so I'll go through it, but I do want to hear your thoughts on some of this. So
1990 was a busy year, man.
yeah, and busy year, and this kind of is why I think a big part of his blow up, because as I will read, there's lots of determining what is censorship and what is not, what is okay versus what is not, and MC Hammer himself would kind of use this to his advantage, because you
Then-
think of Two Live Crew, and then you think of what Hammer was doing. Hammer was like, look, those guys, I don't do any of that stuff in my music. You can play my music in your household with your grandma, with your parents, with your kids, because I don't even curse in my records. Like, that was a
Right.
big thing of him. It was like, I don't say any curse words.
But
And
at
he
the
would
same
actually,
time,
but he would
there
actually use it in a song where, because we'll talk about this, like you said, he's getting dissed. And so he's trying to answer these disses, but he's still trying to do so without using foul language in it. He plays that up in some of his songs as kind of a joke.
yeah, and I get that, but it's really interesting to note that at that time, a lot of hip hop didn't have cursing in it. You listen to "Mama Said Knock You Out." I don't think there's one curse word on that whole album. 3 Feet High and Rising, no cursing on that album. Tribe's first album, I don't think there's any cursing on that album. So, I mean, the explicit lyrics thing was really like the folks who were like really hardcore. So, you had Two Live Crew coming from like the very sexual
Mm-hmm.
side of profanity. And then you had Ice-T and NWA and a lot of the West Coast rappers really coming from like a hardcore, like violent sort of explicit lyrics type situation. But, I do think it's worth noting that at that time, to make a rap album and there not be cursing on it wasn't like a huge deal.
But
Kid,
those guys also didn't market it as, here's
right.
the rap music you could listen to
Right.
with your
It still
grandma.
wasn't like hip hop for the whole family.
Yeah.
Whereas again, Hammer, again, it's like a whole image thing. It's like the familiarity of the music, plus he was kind of, more of like a dancer than a rapper. Like all that stuff just made it a lot more palatable to older folks.
Okay. January 8th, 1990. Sinead O'Connor releases Nothing Compares to You, originally written, composed, and performed by Prince, which was a worldwide success, becoming one of the best-selling singles in 1990 and topped the charts in many countries, including the U.S. and the U.K. Now, Sinead will pop back up in a little bit here. January 21st, MTV's Unplugged is broadcast for the first time on cable television. Do you know who the first artist was to do an MTV Unplugged?
I'm gonna guess and say it was Paul McCartney.
So, according to my research, the British band Squeeze.
Ah, okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, my homeboy Mike Duquette would have known that.
Okay.
But yeah, I vaguely remember reading that somewhere. So
The 32nd annual Grammy Awards on February 21st in LA, hosted by Gary Shandling. Bonnie Raitt's Nick of Time wins Album of the Year, while Bette Midler's cover of Wind Beneath My Wings wins both record and song.
Mm.
Milli Vanilli, Best New Artist.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
March 25th, Motley Crue's Tommy Lee is arrested for allegedly exposing his buttocks during a performance in Augusta, Georgia.
Georgia was popping people left and right around the time. That's I think the same place Bobby got arrested for humping the stage or whatever it was.
Yeah, man.
Then did the video for Tenderoni and was like, "Oh, this is, I guess, why I got arrested." And just,
but just the idea of, pulling your pants down for a half a second, and I mean, maybe he did it for much longer, but that seems so tame. But here we are, 35 odd years later, 36 years later.
And now most of us have seen the other side of Tommy Lee as well. Yes.
Tommy Lee's like, arrest me now.
Right. You haven't seen the most impressive side of me.
April 5th, Michael Jackson is awarded Artist of the Decade by George H.W. Bush at the White House. Did George get the final vote? Was there even a vote put to it, or he's just like, we need to get Michael in the White House?
I mean, how can I say this? At a certain point in Michael Jackson's career, if you wanted him to show up somewhere, you had to give him an award. So when there were times when people made up awards just to like get him in the building, I don't know that there has been an Artist of the Decade award given by the President of the United States ever since. But you know, it's good PR, right? Michael Jackson's still one of the biggest stars in the world. You want his endorsement, you know, so by showing up, it's just kind of like, oh, hey, you know, he is the biggest star in the world. Now your fans must love me. So it was that kind of thing. And Mike was like, oh, you gonna give me something? Sure, I'll show up.
Donald Trump's like, Carrie Underwood, Artist of the Decade.
Kid Rock, Artist of the Decade.
Kid Rock. I remember when Eddie was on Arsenio and then Michael came on.
Yeah,
didn't they give him an award for that one too?
I think Artist of the Decade. Yeah, yeah. Well, I think it was, if I remember correctly, MTV had done like this big thing for, you know, the 80s, which were ending, and basically Michael and Eddie traded awards. Like, I think Michael gave Eddie something for like funniest person of the decade or whatever, and Eddie gave Michael, and you know, again, sort of like an endorsement. If Mike shows up on Arsenio's show, you know, Arsenio's show is a big deal because Mike don't do talk shows.
Yeah. Let's see. April 7th, Neil Young, Elton John, Chris Christopherson, Willie Nelson, John Mellencamp, Guns N' Roses, and Jackson Browne perform at Farm Aid 4 in Indiana. John dedicates Candle in the Wind to AIDS patient Ryan White during his performance. White dies the following day.
Speaking of Michael, you know, Michael was one of those people who was really visible with Ryan White. And for those who don't know, Ryan White was this kid in Indiana, a teenage kid who developed AIDS from a blood transfusion and was really one of the first like you know, people whose diagnosis and the way he was treated got like national news attention. And he really was sort of like the face of AIDS for a while in the public. And he was, I think, 17 when he passed away.
Yeah, this is like would be what, the year before Magic too, I think, right?
Yeah, because Magic went public in 91, end of 91. Yeah. But before Magic Johnson, Ryan White was like the public face of AIDS.
May 29th, in Canada, Toronto police threatened to arrest Madonna if she performs her simulated masturbation scene during her performance of Like a Virgin on her Blonde Ambition tour. Madonna refuses to change her show, and the police decide not to press charges, later denying that they never had ever threatened to do so. A claim refuted by footage captured during the filming of Truth or Dare. You're on camera, guys.
Yeah, seriously. You can't, you know, I mean, now it's very commonplace to have literal proof that you said something and be like, I didn't really say that.
Gotcha.
But back then, not so much.
You know, they have this thing for work meetings now where they have like an AI thing that will actually take the notes for you.
Oh, yeah.
And if you wanted to turn that AI notes thing on a little early, people might be saying some wild stuff on notes.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So be careful, people. Be careful. All right, June 10th, members of 2 Live Crew are arrested and charged with obscenity after a performance in a Hollywood, Florida nightclub. Banned in the USA, man.
2 Live Crew was doing some wild stuff.
They were. Uncle Luke. Uncle Luke. How did Uncle Luke go by the name of Luke Skywalker for so long in his early career?
Again, like when you're kind of riding under the mainstream a little bit, like you can get away with stuff like that. But I'm sure as soon as George Lucas's people were like, "What?" You know,
so it took him a few years, though.
Yeah, it was a couple years. Yeah, it was a couple years.
June 12th, Mariah Carey releases her debut album, which would go on to top the Billboard 200 for 11 consecutive weeks. Mariah, man.
36 years later, still doing it. Yes.
Mariah was such a force.
We're gonna do a Mariah episode at some point.
Yep. August 13th, Curtis Mayfield is paralyzed from the neck down in an accident from an outdoor concert in Flatbush, Brooklyn.
Brooklyn. I was supposed to be there.
Oh my gosh. After stage lighting equipment collapses on top of him.
I remember the weather was so bad that we actually turned around and went back home. So to give you an idea of what the conditions were to cause that accident, like it was uh very much like a unique like wind and rainstorm. Like everybody should have been inside.
August 24th, back to Sinead. She sparked a controversy when she refused to play a concert at Garden State Art Center in New Jersey unless the venue refrained from its tradition of playing a recording of the American national anthem before the performance. She was heavily criticized, and her music was dropped from a number of radio stations as a result.
She was crazy as hell, but she stood by her convictions. Respect to Sinead O'Connor for being
How many
a
years? How many years was this before Colin Kaepernick?
20 at least. 25.
Let me think about this. Yeah, Kaepernick was like 2014 or 2015.
Yeah, so 25 years.
Yeah, she paid for it too.
Indeed, she did.
August 27th, guitarist Stevie Ray Vaughan is killed in a helicopter crash following a concert at the Alpine Valley Music Theater in East Troy, Wisconsin. He was only 35 years old.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah.
October 20th, a Florida jury acquits Two Live Crew of the obscenity charges stemming from their performance of their act known for its sexually explicit lyrics.
First Amendment, baby.
October 22nd, Pearl Jam, then named Mookie Blaylock, played their first show as a band at the Off Ramp Club in Seattle. Mookie Blaylock, I wonder if they could have actually performed as a group named after a human who's kind of semi-famous from playing basketball.
I mean, I don't know that there's any law against that. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm glad they changed their name.
So if me and you decide to put together a group and call ourselves Cooper Flag, we could do it.
Maybe.
Cooper Flag. I don't know if I'd name it after Cooper Flag.
Nah, we got to name ourselves. We call ourselves like Jalen Brunson or something like that.
Or maybe even we have to be a little bit less famous than that. I'm trying to think of someone who's less famous from that perspective. Like,
call ourselves Julius Randle.
He's still pretty famous though. I'm trying to think of like someone who's just kind of just chilling.
Oh God. Oh man.
Who's the other white guy that plays for the Lakers who's not Austin Reed? Dalton Connect.
Oh, Dalton Connect.
Yeah, we'll be Dalton Connect.
Oh God.
All right. October 27th, Janet Jackson's Black Cat reaches #1. It was also the first song to simultaneously peak atop the Billboard 100 and mainstream rock chart. Good for Janet, man.
Good for Janet.
November 6th, Madonna releases Justify My Love. The accompanying music video is banned by MTV amid international controversy over its sexual explicit content.
Do you know who produced that song, Garrett?
No.
Lenny Kravitz.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wait, were they an item?
I don't know if they were or they weren't. I mean, it honestly wouldn't surprise me. Given who Madonna is, given who Lenny is, I would not be surprised. But technically, he was still married to Lisa Bonet at that time, and I think that. So there's actually a story about that, and the co-writer of that song is a woman named Ingrid Chavez, and Ingrid Chavez kind of came out of the Prince camp, but apparently, the crux of the lawsuit was that Lenny left Ingrid's name off of the writing credits because he didn't want Lisa to think that he was messing around on her with Ingrid Chavez, which apparently he was.
Man, how can you mess around on Lisa Bonet?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, what did we talk about? Eric Benet last time,
yeah,
and who else? Jay-Z, all these people, Jermaine Dupri.
Like, that was
why people?
Yeah. So we did our Tupac episode, and I don't even remember if we mentioned this, but there was a Tupac Madonna moment for a
There was.
short period of time.
There was.
And there's a song that ended up on Bedtime Stories or one of those early
Bedtime Story.
90s Madonna albums that Pac was originally on,
Yeah.
but then
I'd rather
they
song's
took him
called
off the song.
Yeah, the song's called "I'd Rather Be Your Lover," and they pulled him off and replaced him with Michelle Ndegeocello.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's supposed to be a Madonna and Tupac record.
Tupac, man.
He got around.
Yeah, he did. So does she, by the way.
Yes, she did.
November 27th, amid growing public skepticism towards the artistic integrity of the dance pop duo Milli Vanilli, as well as creative differences with frontmen Fab and Rob, music producer Frankie Farian admits that Fab and Rob had been lip syncing all of their songs, including Girl You Know It's True. The tracks were composed and recorded by an ensemble of much older artists. Their Grammy for Best New Artist is voided, and the accounts vary as to whether it was revoked or if Fab and Rob returned it themselves.
Either way, it ain't theirs anymore. I mean, it's funny because we're teenagers at this time, right?
Yeah.
So things are not fully formed. But when you sound like this and you sing like this, obviously there's some kind of common sense disconnect there. So the fact that it took this long for folks to put two and two together, I think just kind of speaks to a much more innocent time.
But you
Uh,
know what's interesting is we are in a day and age where lots of UK actors portray American voices in film, and they
oh,
do
sure.
so fantastically well. Like, who's is Daniel the guy from Get Out? Is he British?
Daniel Kaluuya.
Yeah,
Yes, yes, he is.
and like he's amazing in Get Out. You could never tell.
I mean, look at Idris Elba.
Yeah,
You know, if he can play the character he
Stringer
played in The
Bell, man.
Wire,
That dude is Stringer Bell.
yeah. I was watching a movie last night that had Simon Baker in it from The Mentalist,
Mm,
who is British and sounded just like a regular Midwestern American, I guess.
yeah. So, I feel like Arsenio was on those guys like very early on.
Because Arsenio had a rule on his show that you could not lip sync.
Yeah,
And I think he booked Milli Vanilli, and they were like, "Yo, can we use tapes?" And Arsenio was like, "No," and they backed out. So he definitely knew what was going on.
yeah, yeah. All right, let's get into Please Hammer, Don't Hurt 'Em.
But also, before we do that, I mean, there's so much other great music that came out in 1990. So, like, give a shout out to BBD and
Mhm.
Johnny Gill, Whitney. We talked about LL a couple weeks back, but Public Enemy. Just so much great music that came out at that time, but nothing really had like the cultural impact of Please Hammer, Don't Hurt 'Em.
Yeah, and that's why we chose it
Yeah,
because it allows us to kind of talk about what's going on around this time that allows Hammer to just rule the airwaves.
yeah.
Okay, Stanley Burrell. The early days, I had I had an interesting conversation. We're probably going back 6 or 7 years now. But I was invited with my friend. My friend was invited and he brought me along. So the Oakland A's, their team president was a man by the name of Dave Cavall. He is no longer their team president. After he got them to Las Vegas, he bounced. But Dave Cavall, very interesting dude, also had something to do with the San Jose Sharks, I'm sorry, the San Jose Earthquakes, the MLS team. So we were invited to his suite, and he's a team president. So there's like, there's some cool people who got invited to the suite. And I'm there, and all of a sudden, which is kind of what happens in these settings, is there's some older person who has no idea about why something had happened. And the 1970s A's were a little bit of a topic. Now, I was kind of interested. I was wondering if Dave Cavall, being the president, kind of knew the stories of like the 70s A's. So I was kind of just probably being a little bit of a shit and like just kind of just feeling him out. Okay, does this dude really know ball or not? So there was a Stanford group of athletes and their parents who were there with us. And so they started talking about the A's and so, and I don't remember exactly how the story came out, but Hammer, as Stanley Burrell, was a bat boy back then.
Hmm.
And and so I knew this part of the story. So I was just kind of adding my little 2 cents and trivia and stuff. So when what would happen is the owner, Charles Finley, he was not local. So he would actually use young Stanley Burrell as kind of the liaison to really know what's going on with the team. And so that was kind of his job in a sense, was like to always talk to the owner.
So
And
Hammer
so
was a snitch.
well, it was just like, yeah, like, tell me, is there anything I need to be worried about? What's going on? But I'm sure some of it was he's just like a young kid, so you
Right.
could really get him to tell the truth about some things.
Right.
So what would happen is these players, as a way to make a little bit of extra money, you're given like a couple of tickets to the game. Like, oh yeah, you can give these out to your friends and family or whatever. So all of these players were like, nah, we're going to sell these. And so they would get Hammer to go into the parking lot to basically sell their tickets, for which they got for free. And so that's how they were able to make a little bit of extra cash. And,
Yeah.
they gave Hammer a little bit of a piece of it. But in this time frame, the reason he gets this name of Hammer is because the ball players think that he looks like Hank
Right.
Aaron, and
Right.
Hank Aaron's nickname was Hammer. So they would call him like, "Oh, you look like Hank Aaron, you're Hammer." And so that's how he gets the name, the rap name of Hammer, is from this time frame when he was a bat boy with the Oakland A's.
Right. Right.
So in his early days, and I guess he even started Bust It, supposedly with a little bit of help from some of the players as like a loan or an investment into Bust It. So in 1986, Feel My Power is what Let's Get It Started was called. And this was sold locally, kind of, the old story about, out of the trunk of your car,
Car.
you're
Yeah.
selling tapes and stuff. And so he sells like 50,000 of these things, just out of the trunk of his car. And so Capitol Records kind of feels that there might be a little bit of a buzz here. Of course, hip hop is now bubbling. I'm sure they see what Run DMC is doing on the other side, and they're like, "Oh, maybe we can do the same thing in the Bay." And they sign him to a deal, and they re-release "Feel the Power" as what we know as
Let's get it
"Let's Get
started.
It Started." And
Yeah.
"Let's Get It Started" actually goes platinum or whatever it did. And so when I first got into "You Can't Touch This," I remember my cousin goes, "Oh, yeah, he had an album before that was way better than this called 'Let's Get It Started.'" So I was like, "Oh," and then I remember I think I still have the same copy that I would find at like a flea market like a couple of years later. I think I've had this copy of "Let's Get It Started" probably since like at least the mid '90s. That is sitting with me over here because I was like, "Oh, the flea market or garage sales, people were always selling vinyl before they really thought
Yeah.
that it
Before
was
vinyl made the comeback.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so, uh, "Let's Get It Started" comes out, and it's I'm sure it's more of a local hit, but what I realized is because it's '86 when he does it, a lot of his disses he disses Run DMC, and in 1988, like, you're like Run DMC is not really as hot as they once were, but it's because he's recording all of this stuff a few years prior, and then it
Right.
comes out and you see the video and stuff where he's kind of dissing Run DMC. So that makes a lot more sense to me because I was always wondering, like, is the West Coast that far behind? Like, what's going
Yeah, I
on
mean,
here?
I think some songs on that were recorded way before. Yeah, I mean, there is like on the song "Let's Get It Started," he's talking about Dougie Fresh, LL, and DJ Run,
Yeah.
and I mean, that album didn't really catch on nationally until like the beginning of '89, and at that point, like, who gave a shit about Dougie Fresh, you know? Um, So
We
yeah,
we we give a shit now about Dougie Fresh because he's still
yeah,
out there and he's still entertaining and he's still
yeah.
kind of a pioneer. But yeah, back then it was kind of like music is moving so fast that
Well,
these
hip
guys.
hop particularly is moving so fast. Like Dougie Fresh and to a lesser extent Run DMC are already like yesterday's news.
Yeah. Okay. So he's recording Please Hammer Don't Hurt Him while he's touring for Let's Get It Started. And what's really interesting about this is because my question to you, even before we started recording this, it was just kind of we're just kind of shooting the stuff over the week, was how does he make this album with these very familiar samples of hit songs? And that was like my first question, like what's
Right,
going on there? And I
right.
did find an answer. I think for the most part, what you said was correct, but there is actual technical answers to how he was able to sample Prince, how he was able to sample Rick James. So we'll get to that in a second. But the thing about this album is he essentially records Please Hammer Don't Hurt Him on his tour bus for $10,000. That's the cost of the album. Now, he uses a guy from the Confunction,
Right,
the
Felton
funk band
Pilot.
Confunction, Felton
Yeah.
Pilot. It's produced and mixed by Felton Pilot and James Early. And I guess the idea is like Felton could play most of the stuff that Hammer actually wanted, and it's a little bit cheaper to get someone to play the song rather than to get the actual sample. And so that was kind of, why the album did not cost that much, but there were some issues that would come out after because the Rick James thing, I'm sure Rick is like, "What the F, man? Like, where's my piece?"
Rick is like, wait, there's some money?
So
Charlie
what
Murphy.
so what happens is Hammer doesn't just go, "Oh, my bad, Rick," and pay him what Rick wanted for the song. He's like, "No, we'll do something even better. I'll add you as a co-writer on the song so then you actually get royalties from You Can't Touch This."
Yeah, I mean, it's I after you posed that question, like I went back and looked at my copy of the album, and there are a couple of songs on here, um, where the songwriting credit is just uh the people that wrote the originals. Actually, for On Your Face, which is an Earth, Wind and Fire song, the only songwriters credited are Earth, Wind and Fire. So Hammer got like no songwriting royalties off of that song. It went straight to Maurice White and Philip Bailey from Earth, Wind and Fire. So I don't know how much of it was retroactive. I know the Rick James part was definitely retroactive, but I'm pretty sure there were some lawsuits and some settlements and hey, you scratch. And at a certain point, the album was making so much money, it made more sense for Hammer to just kind of write them in as,
Mhm.
as songwriters as opposed to like giving them money for the sample.
Okay, some of the other ways that they cut the cost. So because he's essentially recording on his tour bus, he doesn't have to rent a studio. He's also using the Shure SM57 mics. Now, this is a stage mic. Like if you go see any public speaking engagement, like if you go to the Grammys and you see the mics they're using, they're like the Shure SM57 because these are like the tried and true, will never fail you mics that people just trust. But people don't actually record music or record singing on these mics. They the one that I saw was diamond mics that are like $5,000 to $10,000. So he's actually using $100 mic to record his vocals versus what you would cost to rent, the studio stuff. So it's
Right.
another way that he went low budget on this album. Okay, so now the Prince thing, because there's a very familiar Prince sample in Pray. And this was the one where I was like, I don't buy, whatever the story is. So I want to tell you because this is what the research says. Okay. Hammer just didn't snatch it and like cross his fingers and hope that Prince didn't see. Prince sees everything, man. He actually sought Prince's approval through a mix of his networking and he made sure that Prince understood what the song was going to be. It was going to be about faith. community, social positivity, and supposedly Prince gave him the thumbs up because he respected what the song was about, and he liked that the song had substance and wasn't just a generic party track. I get that part, if that part is true or false. I have not been able to find what it cost. I can't imagine Prince just gives it to him for free.
I don't think Prince did it for free. Prince isn't here, so there's no way to quantify that story at all. I wonder if Arsenio was the plug. If Hammer was just like, Arsenio, Prince, can you just make this phone call real quick and be like, hey, can we do this thing? So yeah, I mean, who knows what actually happened? But it doesn't really. Look, that song is basically "When Doves Cry" with rap lyrics on top of it.
There's no hiding the
No.
song. It
No,
just plays the most familiar bed of that music over and over and over again.
Yeah. It's the pinnacle of uncreative sampling.
Yes.
But somehow it worked. And he didn't get the pantsuit off of him. And if you're suing Hammer pants, those are big pants. So it's going to be a big lawsuit. But they figured that out. And again, it was before, like, kind of right before people started going real crazy about samples and being like, yo, give me my money, give me my money, give me my money.
Yeah. Crazy. Okay, so the critical reception of this album was not fantastic. It was big, though. It was bigger than life.
It's huge.
But there was a lot of sellout and too pop and unoriginal. And is he a cartoon character more than he? And he had a cartoon.
Hammerman.
Yes, and the pants and all of those things. Like and again, we'll talk about this in a second, but he took this stuff to heart. Like, it still bothers him to this day as a 60 some odd year old man. So super duper popular. The album spent 21 weeks at number one. Now, not consecutive weeks. That there were some times where it dropped off at number one. And it was the first hip hop album to be certified diamond.
Yeah. And I think, okay, so breaking each of those two things down, prior to Please Hammer Don't Hurt 'Em, only 2 rap albums had hit number one prior to that. It was Licensed to Ill by the Beastie Boys and Tone Loc's first album.
Oh, crud. I just saw Tone Loc. You know what I saw him in? Not in person.
Oh.
Ace Ventura: Pet Detective.
Oh God! Wait, what were we talking about? Ace Ventura. We were talking about Ace Ventura on the last episode of the episode before that.
I was. I watched that movie and I was like, "What is Tone Loc doing in this?
movie?
He doesn't have any reason to be Tone Loc." I imagine, and some of this was, interestingly, this was not Hammer, but LL did this perfectly. As you use your pedestal as an artist to then get into other things. I think Tone Loc's been in a couple of movies.
He was in an episode of Living Single that I just rewatched.
But like, Hammer didn't really do that. I can't remember. I mean, he did the Addams Family song and the music video with the characters, but he wasn't in the movie. Did he ever try to do? I can't remember him trying to do any acting or anything.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Hammer, now rap albums are number one all the time, and that's been the case for the last 25 years. But prior to MC Hammer, only 2 rap albums that hit number one before that. And also, like, you consider selling 10 million copies of something, and it's not like today when you hit like a certain streaming threshold and they'll give you gold or platinum. This is people spending $11, $12, 10 million times on a piece of music. And I think the only rap albums that have sold diamond to this point are the Hammer album, that Beastie Boys album, a couple of Eminem albums, and then All Eyes on Me and Life After Death, with both double albums, so they get counted twice.
Right.
So they've really only sold like 5 million copies. So that's still, when you consider like what a commercial force hip hop is, there's less than 10 albums in that entire genre that have gone diamond.
Yeah.
And Hammer was the first.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
I read something about the actual single, You Can't Touch This. And again, I'm doing research, and sometimes as I'm doing my research, I'm like, I want to make sure I run this one by Mike just to see what he knows.
Is it
So
that it was the last top 10 record to only be available on vinyl?
no,
Okay.
so but that's actually great trivia too.
Yeah.
You Can't Touch This only reached number 8 on the Hot 100, but it was because it was released primarily as a 12-inch single to force fans to buy the
By the
full
album.
album.
Yeah. Yeah, there was no cassette single, no CD single. Um, at that point, the market for vinyl was already pretty small. So they basically just released it on a format so it could chart. Um, but it would have been a number one record had they actually released a cassette single or a CD single. But that ended up making people buy the album, which is something that the record industry adopted throughout the 90s, not releasing singles to force people to buy the album until file sharing came in. That shit backlashed like a mug.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. And um yeah, just I mean it is an interesting factoid because you would think the idea is like this song is like crazy on radio, so we should make it available. But they're like, nope, make them buy the full thing. And now, if you were to guess what actual album ended up being at used music stores the most, this has to be like in the top 10.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. People kind of caught the fever for it, and it was a cultural phenomenon, and tons of people bought the album. And then a year later, everybody was like, "Why do we own this?"
It,
So
it is way too long,
yeah,
and
go to your record stores like Dollar Bin or $2 Bin. You're going to see copies of "Please Hammer Don't Hurt Him" in
I
there.
mean, are two songs? Like if you were like a music aficionado and you're like, I have to have as much music as possible. Like, there's like maybe two songs from this album that you would actually have in your collection.
I mean, if I go into my Apple Music library, I think "You Can't Touch This" might be the only song I have still in the library. I mean, I have a copy of "Please Hammer Don't Hurt Him" on vinyl, which I got for free. So I didn't even pay for that. And I just kind of keep it around because it's funny to have almost. It's not like I go back and listen to it. And actually listening to it for this podcast episode was the first time I pulled that album out in years.
You could also tell Hammer did not look at himself as like a Casanova like LL did, but he is trying to kind of do that slow song in both the first two albums.
Yeah.
One of them is a little bit more like saccharine. Like "Have You Seen Her" is a tough re-listen.
hmm
It was probably a tough listen at the time, but that did good. That
hmm
was a single from what I remember. I think it was
Right.
like third single or the second single or
It
something.
was the third single. "Help the Children," "You Can't Touch This," "Have You Seen Her," then "Pray," then "Here Comes the Hammer" was the order of singles. But speaking of that, I mean, also worth mentioning, like "Please Hammer Don't Hurt Him" had 3 top 10 singles on the pop charts. I don't think there had been 3 rap songs hit the top 10 of the pop charts in total prior to MC Hammer. It maybe been like, again, 2 Tone Loc songs, Young MC, uh, "Walk This Way," and "You Gotta Fight for Your Right to Party." That was the extent of every rap record that hit the top 10 prior to MC Hammer. And then Hammer did it 3 times off the same record.
As an aside, and we love to go on tangents,
Yeah.
but you mentioned Tone Loc and Young MC.
hmm
Why isn't it a bigger deal that these dudes are related and came out at the same time and had like giant success and then went away like so fast?
I mean, related how? I don't think they're like blood relatives or anything like that.
Oh, I
I
thought they were
think
related.
Nah, what the Tone Loc Young MC story is that they both work with the Dust Brothers, who were these producers out of California, and Young MC wrote the lyrics for "Wild Thing" and "Funky Cole Medina."
Got it. That's they okay, so he was the okay, that makes sense.
Yeah,
'Cause I guess, I just did a quick search, and I guess this is like a one of those legends so that I fell for, which is people did think that they were related, but
uh,
it's just that they worked really closely together.
yeah, and I mean, hip hop. like commercial hip hop was very much still like a one hit wonder oriented thing. So the genre was moving so fast. I think when Tone Loc and Young MC released their second albums, like the art form had just passed them in a way, and people were listening. The music that had been uncommercial at the time had kind of moved to the forefront, and people didn't care.
What's so funny is we mentioned how quickly hip hop was moving at this time.
Yeah,
And what was the single on Bust a Move was giant.
yeah,
And then there was like a follow-up song where it sounded very similar to Bust a Move, but when you hear it, you're like, okay, like this game has passed this dude by. Do you remember what that song was?
I mean, there was "That's the Way Love Goes," which was the first single off his second album.
Okay.
But the follow up to "Bust a Move" was called "Principal's Office," and it was kind of like Parents Just Don't Understand, but set in a school. Uh, so Young MC was kind of really good at those story raps that were very non-threatening. Um, but again, his shelf life was pretty short.
I just remember my buddy yeah, we were friends in junior high school and high school. So of course, Young MC Bust Move, everyone knows that because it's so singable and it's like so memorable,
Yeah,
very easy to remember those lyrics. And so he starts like this is a thing in high school. Like you want to be part of what everyone else is like, what's cool, what people are into. And so, he's like, I remember he comes to school one day and he's like, have you guys heard the new Young MC song? And he starts rapping it. And what he didn't realize is that we had moved on. And so in his mind, he was like, I'm going to hip them to game and I want to show them that I know what I'm talking about. And everyone had moved on. And I always felt bad for that moment for him because I could tell he rewound that
he
tape.
never recovered.
He memorized those lines. But you
Oh
know what's
man.
funny is he's a white guy. His name was John Brown. And because he tried to fit in, they would call him Bobby.
Was that because of Bobby's World, the
No, because of
cartoon?
Bobby Brown.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's
That's
like a
funny.
wannabe Bobby Brown.
Oh,
But
wow.
no, he's a really good dude. But it's just very memorable to me because just on how quickly rap can kind of just go. Like in one day we're listening to You Can't Touch This, and the next day we're listening to like Tribe Called Quest, and they're like so different, but
Yeah,
they're not that far apart. And you're just like, okay, this is over, and this is the new thing,
right. And
and
it's
it's
like,
just so
look,
fast.
the reality is at that time, speaking as, my 14-year-old self in Brooklyn, I'm listening to Tribe Called Quest, I'm listening to Public Enemy, but I also, you know, I had like a dub copy of Please Hammer Don't Hurt Him on tape. I had that first Vanilla Ice record. I had that first Marky Mark record. Like I was listening to hardcore stuff and also like had an eye on the pop stuff. And obviously, as the decades have rolled by, the Tribe and Public Enemy and those kind of records have a little bit more like heft to them, and they have held up. They haven't aged like milk. Whereas the pop rap records kind of like those are cute, but it's not stuff you listen to for like artistic sustenance.
Now I know Mark Wahlberg as a youth was not a good dude.
Yeah,
I don't know if he's a good dude or not as a grown ass man.
I
It's arguable.
yeah
But
I yeah I don't know, man.
but the idea that this dude was Donnie Wahlberg's knucklehead little brother
Okay.
who probably could have been on the New Kids on the Block and then comes out as I kind of call him a fitness rapper.
He actually, it's funny. Now that I think back, it's like there was my dude from CNC Music Factory who was buff and kind of did like all the aerobic stuff. And Marky Mark was like not long after that. So yeah, there was a whole wave of like fitness rappers.
Who was the dude on MTV who was like really, really in shape? What was that guy's name?
Oh, Eric Nies.
That's who Marky Mark reminds me of a little bit.
Eric Nies from the
From the
first
Real
Real
World,
World
yeah.
and the Grind on
And then he did
MTV.
and then he did his fitness stuff. But like the idea that he becomes like this, yeah, Donnie admitted to me on Facebook that he wrote Mark's rhymes. Like,
Oh yeah, Donnie wrote that whole album. I think both of Mark's albums Donnie wrote.
yeah, yeah. Like this funny, hilarious, funny story. This is back when I had Facebook. I don't have Facebook anymore because I got banned, like 2 Live Crew.
Ha! Banned in the USA.
And it wasn't. I didn't even do anything. That's the biggest problem.
Didn't show one ass cheek.
Me and Zuck have beef, man. I wish you would, Zuck. I really do. So I had to. There's I don't even remember what song it was, but Donnie Wahlberg in some of the later albums, he would do like little rap interludes in some of the songs.
Right.
And I posted one of these lyrics on my Facebook status message in a kind of like shaking my head Donnie Wahlberg kind of way. And he was vanity searching. And he was like, "Oh man, I thought that was a good rhyme." And then he said the one that he thinks is not as good as the one from Mark's album. And I was like, "Oh, so you're just admitting that you wrote Mark's rhymes too," in my Facebook status comment.
I mean, he did.
And it's hilarious because I think I have screenshots of it. I don't have the account anymore, but I have screenshots of it. And like so many people are just replying to this message going, "Oh my gosh, what is Donnie Wahlberg doing replying to your status message?
Now
Do you know him?"
Donnie Wahlberg Googles himself, apparently.
Hey, it was a fun moment for me. I'm down with it. Like, it's just, he knew. Maybe he knew. He's like, "Yeah, this dude's in his 40s and he still loves NKOTB. I'll give him some love."
Yeah, I mean, and NKOTB doesn't have a whole lot of dude fans, so I think he's just like, let me give this dude props.
Wild. Yeah. So, but then Mark goes on to be like this giant actor,
Crazy
entertainer,
respected,
like
Oscar-nominated actor.
my
like,
goodness,
who saw
what a
that coming?
story.
Yeah,
What
and
a
I mean,
story.
Donnie has said he basically gave Mark a record deal to keep him from going to jail.
Yeah, that makes sense. That tracks because you read about the history of young Mark Wahlberg. It is not nice.
He was trending in a not great direction.
No. All right, let's get
back to MC Hammer.
Hammer's like, "Are you guys supposed to be talking about my album?" All right, let's do our Grammy Redux segment.
Okay.
So this would be the 91 Grammys. Record of the Year, You Can't Touch This is nominated. Other albums that are nominated. We'll see if Mike probably remembers. Other records nominated, Nothing Compares to You, Sinead O'Connor. From a Distance, Bette Midler. Going for back-to-back wins here, Bet. Vision of Love, Mariah Carey, and Another Day in Paradise, Phil Collins.
Right. Phil Collins won that award.
Phil Collins did win.
And man, Nothing Compares to You is an all-time. Vision of Love is an all-timer. Like, it's two stunning timeless records, and the other three are just kind of like
Okay, Album of the Year. The nominees are Please Hammer Don't Hurt Him, of course. Wilson Phillips. They had a moment.
Hold On for One More Day.
Mariah Carey's Mariah Carey. But Seriously, Phil Collins. And Back on the Block, Quincy Jones.
Quincy won that.
Quincy won.
Yeah, I mean, out of those albums, Mariah is the only one that I still actually listen to on a regular basis. Although Quincy's album has some joints on it. Secret Garden is that's my record.
Is this the Tevin Campbell album? Or when we were introduced to Tevin
It's when we were introduced to Tevin Campbell, yeah.
And then I think this was this rap solo? Hammer wins rap solo for 91. Here are the other nominees. All Hail the Queen, Queen Latifah. I Get the Job Done, Big Daddy Kane. Ice Ice Baby, Vanilla Ice. And Moni in the Middle.
Where's she at? In the middle. Man. So at least the Grammy people were progressive when it came to like nominating female rappers.
Right.
I mean, I love Big Daddy Kane. Like, got to shout out Brooklyn. Latifah's record was dope. Moni's record was fun. I mean, Vanilla Ice has now gone like MAGA, so I don't really want to like give Vanilla Ice any props. But Ice Ice Baby
Vanilla
is
Ice Platinum. That shit's
ridiculous. Yeah, man. I give that. I mean, I give that award to probably Latifah or Kane. But Hammer was everywhere. I mean, Please Hammer Don't Hurt Him sold more than those other 4 records put together.
Yeah.
So
I have two things to say about that. Not those nominations. So one, I recently watched Set It Off.
Cleo.
Latifah is amazing in that.
She's so stunning in that movie. Like,
holy cow! Like, she has an actually great career as an actress.
Mm-hmm.
That performance told us, like, okay, get ready.
Yeah.
This woman is insanely like another thing about like, how come this is not discussed more? Like Queen Latifah, one of the pioneering female hip hop artists and a great actress. Like
Latifah was one of the first people. Right. We talked about Lauryn Hill, and it's like Latifah can rap, she can act, and not only can she act, she can do comedy, she can do drama, she can do musicals. You can put Latifah in a horror movie and it would do fine. And then she can sing on top of that. So she was one of the first people to come out of hip hop that was just like a multi-threat. I mean, and she started acting, I think. Well, I was rewatching the Living Single podcast. And on the very last episode, they brought Latifah out. And, she talks about how, she never really considered acting, but then Will got Fresh Prince, and she was like, "Oh, this is possible." She was like, "If Will can do this, I can do this." And I guess her and Will had been on tour together a bunch of times, so they were tight. And if you remember, Queen Latifah was on a couple of episodes of Fresh Prince, playing multiple characters. So all that to say, shout out to Queen Latifah, who is certainly one of the most like all around talented people to come from, that era of hip hop.
And just to kind of tie other episodes of this show together, she was also in Juice.
That's right. She was in Juice.
Yep. All right. So the last one here this is actually R&B song of the year, I think. I can't remember what the name. I didn't grab the name of the category, but You Can't Touch This wins R&B song. And the other nominees are I'll Be Good to You, Ray Charles and Shaka Khan, Janet Jackson, Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis for All Right, Babyface and Daryl Simmons for My with Johnny Gill, and then Terry Steele and David L. Elliott for Here and Now, Luther Vandross. Talk about just an incredible nomination of R&B songs, and then You Can't Touch This.
If I'm L.A. Reid and Babyface and Daryl Simmons, I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah.
My. Like that is an all-time.
Didn't Johnny just release a new single?
He did.
Is it good?
It's all right.
Okay, I gotta listen to it. I saw
Johnny
his
can sing anything.
Yeah, I saw his Instagram, so I gotta check it out. All right, let's see.
And the funnier thing about that actually is Rick James has his only Grammy for being sampled and credited as a songwriter for You Can't Touch This.
We're going to do a Rick James album at some point. So I'm sure we will come back to this controversy.
Yeah.
All right. I just want to quickly go through the discography. I did not ask Mike to do this, but and the reason is because most of these artists that we're talking about, Mike has this in the back of his head already. Like all this stuff is just, knowledge that he has. But for me, like I have to kind of be reminded. And so, I had all of these albums. I had every single Hammer album except for the last one, Inside Out, which I mentioned to Mike, is actually not half bad. Of course, it's dated because it's like 1995 or whenever that album came out. I don't remember when it came out. and it's by then again, rap changes and we're headed towards this different era, and so it's super dated, but it is actually there's actually some thought put into it, and a lot of it is about like, you know, he's been dissed and like he's like, I got to be okay with this, and my heart's in the right place, and all of these kind of things.
Right.
Um, but going back through, so first off, Please Hammer Don't Hurt Him. Again, there's like 2 or 3 songs that are memorable, and the rest of it is just like, what are we even rapping about, my dude?
Oh man.
And then
Yeah, it's
and
rough.
it's kind of like so what it made me actually realize is in this time frame, even though I have Please Hammer Don't Hurt Him on CD, I'm skipping through stuff like crazy, and I don't even realize it, right? Because there's a lot of stuff on that album that I did not remember at all. There's some stuff that I kinda remembered, but some that I did not. Now, Let's Get It Started is a much better album. I remember almost every track on that album, but Please Hammer Don't Hurt 'Em is so bloated. So then, Too Legit to Quit comes out, and okay, so at this point in my sports fandom, my 49ers are killing it, right? The idea of where I'm focused on in school and in sports, like seeing Hammer do the Too Legit video and seeing athletes in the video was really, really dope. And I'm just like so excited for this album. And I remember buying the album and going through the album and going like, you have to buy an album to get one song,
Right.
which is Too Legit to Quit. So many songs in this album are just flat out terrible.
Well,
And I imagine there was some pressure for him to hurry up and get something else out really quickly because he's riding this incredible fame. But Too Legit to Quit, it might actually be a worse album than Please Hammer Don't Hurt Him.
doesn't surprise me. So the one thing I remember about the two things I remember about the two things I remember about the Too Legit to Quit video. One, Hammer was kind of like not even sideways. Hammer was high key dissing Michael Jackson, and it was set up because Dangerous and Too Legit to Quit came out about the same time, came out within
Mhm,
weeks of each other,
mhm.
and it was kind of like Hammer saying, "Hey, you know, like I'm dancing, I'm saying, like I'm doing all this stuff, like I'm gonna challenge you, kind of." And there was this whole thing with the video where James Brown is in the video, and there's a glove involved in all this stuff. So he was high key coming after Mike, and Mike completely ignored it.
Well, he tried to, like, do some, like, challenge or something, right?
Right,
"Let's go on pay-per-view, and we'll have a dance-off." And,
right.
like,
And
you're
Mike is like, "Who is this guy?" And
like, if you're Michael Jackson, why do you care? Because the only thing and if you're Hammer, of course you care, because if Mike pays attention to you, you get elevated into this new space.
right,
But if you're Mike, you're you're not going in the direction you want, you're kind of coming back down a little
right,
bit.
right.
Though, I will say, I wouldn't say hip hop was necessarily Mike's favorite thing at that point. So there was a possible audience, but those people were gonna be into him anyway because he was just so famous. But like there was a possibility to kind of be a little bit more real, I guess, or whatever you want to say for Mike. But he didn't like that. He was just in a different stratosphere.
Yeah, he's a different space. The other thing I remember is that from Please Hammer Don't Hurt Him to Too Legit to Quit, MC Hammer dropped the
He
MC and it
dropped the
became
MC.
just Hammer. And he tried to be like, I'm not a rapper, I'm an entertainer. And I think that the hip hop community sort of revolted even more, because it kind of seemed like, okay, this dude blew up and now he's not a rapper anymore. Like, what's going on there? But so the Too Legit to Quit video, hugely expensive video. There's a list of everybody who was in that video, and that list is Danny Glover, Henry Winkler, Freedom Williams, David Faustino, so Bud Bundy, Barry Sobel from 227, Ralph Tresvant, Mark and Donnie Wahlberg, Tony Danza, Easy E, DJ Quick, Queen Latifah, Millie Vanilli, Jose Canseco, Isaiah Thomas, Kirby Puckett, RIP, Jerry Rice, Ricky Henderson, R.I.P., Deion Sanders, Andre Rison, Wayne Gretzky, Chris Mullen, Roger Clemens, Roger Craig, Ronnie Lott, Lynette Woodard, the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders, David Robinson, and former Falcons coach Jerry Glanville.
I feel like my other
All in
Warrior,
that one video.
I feel like my other Warrior guys, Run TMC. I feel like Hardaway and Richmond were in that video too, but I can't remember.
Crazy to get this. That's like, that list is so insane.
So I remember, again, because Hammer's a Bay Area, we were going to get, whatever version of Too Legit to Quit before it came out because people were so in it. And I think we got a bad version of that song because I remember my cousin, who was very much into the first two Hammer albums, he was like, "What is the new Hammer song? Is it called Do the Jerk?" And I was like, "I don't think that's what it's called. I think it's called Too Legit." And he's like, "Oh, okay." And so I remember that. Obviously, the Addams Family tie-in was around that same time. And then I don't even know if this is like what people consider a quality Hammer song, but I also remember my next door neighbors going like, "Yeah, I don't like any of this stuff except Do Not Pass Me By."
Right. Because that's a straight up gospel record.
Right.
Yeah.
And I re-listened to that song with Crystal, and her takeaway was, "Why is Hammer rolling his R's?" And I thought, you know what? I don't know. Why is he rolling his R's?
Why? I mean, that's a question only Hammer can answer.
Yeah. Okay, so then after Too Legit to Quit is he actually waits. So Let's Get It Started is actually officially released in 88. Please Hammer Don't Hurt Him 90. Too Legit to Quit 91. And then he waits 3 years for the Funky Headhunter. And again, as you said, hip hop music passes so fast. So there's a little bit of an edge, which people do not buy one iota. He's wearing a beanie and he's got no shirt off on the album cover.
Yeah.
And then he gives you more reason to not believe in this new image because he has a video for Pumps and a Bumps where he's in leopard Speedos dancing.
Just swinging the hammer at everybody.
What? That has never really made any sense to me. If you're marketing like a specific thing, you're marketing a change in image, and then you go to like whatever that video was.
I mean, I think my dude was just trying to be controversial and knew that, whatever he did, whether, he was like stuffing his little thong or whatever it was, that people were going to talk about it. And, that video kind of propelled the album to even do what it did. So I think he was just trying to get people talking.
So the other thing about it though is if he was so worried about negative response, he was just going to get it again with that video, like from the heads that were going to give him that feedback that he did not like.
Right. Yeah, man, I don't know. I mean, there's 2 videos to that song.
Yeah.
By the way, there's one
I think the leopard one, like you can not even really find it anymore.
Yeah, you can't find it really. Yeah.
Yeah. He got it erased from the internet.
It's somewhere in some corner of the internet.
Yeah.
But I would imagine because of the content of it, it's a little bit hard to locate at this point.
So Funky Headhunter comes out. There's actually a song on Funky Headhunter that is going to be in my top 5 that I really, really like.
Okay.
And then he has this other album called Inside Out that I mentioned, but he also has this little soiree with Death Row Records.
Right.
And nothing really came out of that. Like, I don't know if I've heard anything that he recorded for them that did not come out, but he comes in at Death Row, like, he's after Dr. Dre left, like, because we talked about in the Tupac episode that we did for All Eyes on Me, like the time that Tupac signs with Death Row, and then when he dies is not a very long time.
Yeah, no,
And
less than a year.
I know Hammer crosses over in that space because I just remember, I don't remember if it was one of the magazines or not, but they're like, MC Hammer's going to be on Death Row, and
Yeah,
you see him like with Pac,
yeah.
and he has like always talked well of Pac. I don't remember if Pac has ever really said anything about him
Nah, I
on
don't think
wax.
so.
But yeah, that was like a kind of out of left field thing to see him try and link up with Suge Knight.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he was kind of going after the credibility. And, there was a period in 96 where Hammer was signed to Death Row. But I think after Pac got killed, Hammer negotiated his way off the label. And that was kind of that.
Yeah. Okay, so I think I hit on everything I wanted to hit on. Is there anything we missed about Please Hammer Don't Hurt Him?
I mean, look, I, it was very difficult for me to actually get through the album. It's so amateurish and kind of not
Recorded in a
played.
bus, man.
Yeah,
Recorded in a
yeah,
bus.
man. And I mean, again, just this album sold 10 million copies, and that's kind of a mind boggler. And it's really hard to just like it's hard to be objective and not be super critical of this album because from a creative standpoint it's not very good, but it did certainly move hip hop to a new level in like public consciousness, and certainly provided a lane for other rappers to make more commercial music and get endorsements and all this stuff. But man, I don't know, man. One of the most memorable disses of MC Hammer was the gas face by Third Base. Um, and Hammer may be whatever as a person, but Hammer's music still gets the gas face from me.
I do have one more tidbit because it's kind of related to almost current period, but also the no skips rating. This is like a 1 or 2.
Yeah, I might be nice and give it a 2.
You can't touch this still brings a smile to my face.
Sure.
Just because I get taken back to this time frame of being, junior high school.
Yeah.
But after I listened to Pray, because I remember I was like, Pray, I remember Pray being a pretty big song. And then when I
Yeah.
listened to it and I heard the Prince sample immediately, I was like, oh gosh, like this is like blatant. So yeah, 1 or 2 for no skips rating. Okay, last thing. I did not know this until I did the research. Questlove, our guy,
Mm-hmm.
when he put together that 50th anniversary hip hop thing at the Grammys, he said the no that hurt his feelings the most was from Hammer. Hammer
Why would
did
Hammer
not
say
want to
no?
do it. Okay, that was my question.
Mm.
And this has kind of been the theme of this thin skin thing of Hammer being so frustrated by the feedback and criticism. Okay. Hammer said, this was a street naming ceremony in 2023 for Tupac in Oakland. Hammer said, I really don't have patience for the fakeness. I'm really 60 years old. I can't get with the fakeness of it all. I could do it with a young cat, but I can't come around old cats and still being pretending.
I mean, what does that even mean?
I think it means that the people who were going to be there, who dissed him back in the day, he was still feeling some kind of way, and he didn't think that he could handle seeing those people and trying to pretend like it was water under the bridge. I think
So,
that's what he's saying.
so do Hammer and LL still have beef?
Well, you know how LL deals with the beef, though. LL's like scoreboard, thus it doesn't really affect me. It like I won all of those. Like that's
Right.
how he sees it.
Right.
But yeah, like
Yeah, that's crazy.
what does Q-Tip think of MC Hammer? I mean, he probably of the man MC Hammer today because we know what he thought of the music back in
Right.
1991.
Right. Yeah, man. I mean, and Tribe wasn't even part of that thing, if I remember correctly. So it's like, get over yourself. Stop being butthurt.
Yeah.
Like, and also just kind of like understand why people said the things that they did about you. Like it wasn't baseless, right? But if you're really a 60-year-old man, you'd have gotten over that stuff by now.
If he was on that show, he would have to do You Can't Touch This.
Yeah.
And then would that have been celebrated with a lot of that other stuff that was being celebrated?
I mean, it was part of the history, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you can't erase MC Hammer out of history. And I don't think that particular performance really had that many artists, if any, who were more on the pop side of things. But Hammer could have been the representative from that like subgenre.
And then Questlove said, we really wanted him to have his flowers. And then Hammer said, his flowers are his. Oh, actually, I don't know if Hammer actually said this, but the idea was that Hammer didn't need the validation from the Grammys or the people who mocked him. And his flowers are he's a wealthy, influential businessman and tech investor. That's how he sees himself these days.
Okay, Hammer.
By the way, Questlove, when this event was going on Questlove Supreme, he kept saying his closing act canceled on him at the last minute, and they had to reshuffle like that day. And I did some internet sleuthing, and there's some Reddit stuff, and there's some, of people who they think that they know who it is. And it looks like it was Lil Wayne who canceled on Questlove at like the very last minute.
I mean, I didn't miss him.
I didn't miss him either, but Questlove thought so much about him to be kind of the show closer,
right?
And then he just bails.
I mean, I don't have an opinion on that. As similarly to the way I don't have an opinion on Lil Wayne. So, I'm like there are no Lil Wayne records in my collection, so
yeah, I'm not a Wayne guy.
Totally fine with him not being a part of that group.
All right, we're gonna end it here. We'll be back with our top 5, and I'm sure it was a little hard for Mike to create a top 5.
Dude, you don't know. It was rough.
It wasn't as hard for me. There was less songs to choose from for sure, but I was able to escape pretty easily with my top 5. So we'll be back with the top 5. And for Mike, I'm Double G. See what we see you. Peace.
Peace
out.
Hammer time.